Hello everyone and welcome to a new series I'm working on called Time Sinkers. This is going to be a series that explores games that I, sink a lot of time into. A lot of these games are going to be like management sims and, some of the factory games that have been coming out recently, some survival and crafting games that really appeal to me. And we're going to kick it off today with Oxygen Not Included by Klei Entertainment. And hey, if you like the series, please consider subscribing because there will be more coming down the pipe. So without further ado, let's get to it. Oxygen Not Included is a management sim slash colony builder with a focus on physical science specifically. You're going to be dealing with temperature and gases and all sorts of different things like that, atmospheric things. And it takes place on a randomly generated asteroid. You start out with a group of duplicants, which are this game's version of like clones, and they're basically people, but you generate them over time based around blueprints. And these blueprints have different kinds of traits. So each duplicate has its own set of traits. Some of them can be like, this one's really good at digging. This one's really good at building. This one likes farming and things like that. And these are all skills that you'll need to progress through the game. There are also some negative skills, such as narcolepsy, which means you'll maybe find this duplicate asleep at the job every once in a while. And for the most part, it's not that big of a deal, unless they're currently in the process of doing something really important, in which case that can start to be an issue. But for the most part, they're just kind of things like, oh, he sleeps at random times, or this one is not very good at farming or something like that. The game is presented as kind of like a diorama style, like ant farm view, where you've got this cutaway section of the asteroid and you see the duplicates running around in the rooms you build and in places you're digging and things like that. Kind of like Fallout Shelter, if you're familiar with that game. Very, very similar presentation to that. And you don't really have direct control over these duplicates. You can kind of lead them in certain directions to prioritize certain things, but generally what you're doing is you're queuing up tasks for the duplicates to complete, and the duplicates will accomplish those tasks in their own time. So like they'll finish one task and then they'll go on to the next, and so on and so forth. There's some priorities that you can set, like you can say a particular task is a level 9 task, which gives it higher priority. So maybe a duplicate will, put that task ahead of other tasks before they move on to something with lower priority. And you can also set an alarm that will get a duplicate on the case pretty quickly. That's if you have like one of your duplicates is in danger of dying, or they're peeing all over the floor because nobody cleaned the bathroom and the toilet, so they can't use it or something like that. So you progress through the game by digging out the surroundings of your starting colony, so you can build more rooms and build more items, build research posts so you can research better technology to further advance, figure out better ways to make food, oxygen, energy, things like that. You're doing this by, queuing up each individual square. So each of these squares that you can see here can have some material in it. It's kind of like a little bit like Minecraft. Each block can have a resource in it, and you dig those out, and then you can use that resource to build something else. And the ultimate goal is to reach the outside of the asteroid, like break the surface and then build a spaceship to escape the asteroid. But that's going to take a very long time, and you're going to have to do a lot of research and work and colony management before you can get to that point, because you need a lot of resources and a lot of advanced technologies. So you're going to have to explore a little bit by digging around. You're going to have to find new biomes that offer new materials that can advance your colony, and all the while you're having to deal with the ever-growing crisis of basically colonization, like groups of people in small spaces. So you're going to have to manage disease, you're going to have to manage, as the title of the game suggests, oxygen, because your duplicates need oxygen in order to breathe, and the asteroid doesn't really provide that much oxygen by itself. So you have to use resources and technologies to produce oxygen, as well as food and clean drinking water, and make sure everyone's clean and isn't spreading disease around and everything like that. And that's where, the micromanagement really comes into play here. It's where I was talking before about the physical science aspect of it comes into play, because germs can be passed through the air, they can be passed through, touching objects. And you can alleviate some of that stuff by having the duplicates take showers, wash their hands. You have a room dedicated to, like a bathroom, where the germs hopefully stay and don't get into like the food supply and the water supply and stuff like that. And there are ways to alleviate germs. You can have a hospital that can where sick or injured duplicates can recover. You can make medicines and things like that. So there are a lot of different options to handle these kinds of situations, because eventually you're going to get some sick duplicates. They're going to get hurt. They're going to get it isn't going to run perfectly. Something's going to happen, and you're going to have to react to it. And that's where, like I said, the micromanagement comes into effect. You can kind of, try your best to make it safe. And as you learn the different systems and the way they interact, you'll get better at it as time goes on. So you can be like, well, I know if I start digging up this slime over here, that's going to cause a lot of disease and germs to be spread around. So maybe I'll, tread carefully through there and make sure I put in the air purifiers to clear out the germs before I send all my duplicates in to start mining some of the valuable resources around the area. And that's kind of how the game flows. What's really interesting is the physical science aspect of this game, because it's quite a bit different than other management games. Each square here has a temperature, as well as if it's an empty square without anything built in it, it will also have gas, some sort of gas in it. And oxygen is what you want in there, but there are plenty of other gases that pop up in this game, like chlorine and carbon dioxide, hydrogen, all these gases that the duplicates can't breathe, but they do have ancillary uses. So like you can use hydrogen at one point to generate energy to power your buildings and stuff like that, and that's an important resource to have later on. And ultimately you're just trying to figure out how to balance the exhaust resources you're creating, like carbon dioxide and hydrogen, from doing other things and then converting those into sources of energy. Or you can use chlorine. Some plants that you grow in farms use chlorine to survive. They prefer chlorine environments, as well as some animals that you can tame and then use for food, or collect their eggs and use that for food and things like that. So there's a big balancing act going on here, and that's what most of the game is about balancing that those systems and making small progress toward the ultimate goal. Now, I'm not an expert at this game. I've put quite a lot of time into it, over 100 hours, which I realize for a management sim isn't really that much, but it's kind of a game I play for a week or two, and then I put it aside for something else, and then I come back to it. So I'm not dumping tons and tons of time into this game all at once. But that said, I have, learned a lot of ins and outs about the game, and I do enjoy making the slow progress towards whatever the next step is. And then, something else comes out and sucks up my time, and, Oxygen Not Included takes a break. Overall, I think the game is really fantastic in the way that it presents itself. It's got a really good art style, and it conveys a lot visually, which is really important for a game like this. It is a little fiddly. These games tend to be fiddly, and this one is no exception. So you are probably going to want to take your time with it. Like every single one of these squares in the game can contain a ton of different things. So like you can layer electric wires and pipes and ventilation and a wall all on one single square. So sometimes you have to click through a whole bunch of times in order to get to the actual thing you want to inspect. But that's just kind of, there's really no way around something like that with a game like this. It's going to be a little fiddly like that. I do recommend, not being afraid to check out a wiki if you are having a problem in your colony and you're not sure exactly how to do it, because the in-game tutorialization is not super great. It gets you started, but then it kind of, like later game, how you use certain buildings, how you use certain technologies isn't all that well defined and explained. It's definitely one of those games where there's a lot going on. There's a lot of systems. There's a lot of ways things interact. So you're going to want to give yourself as much of a leg up as you can. So yeah, that's Oxygen Not Included. It's on Steam right now. And it was in early access for a while, and you can tell had a lot of like player feedback, because there's just a lot of like ease of use kind of stuff and quality of life improvements in the game. And I was able to, through the early access process, see some of these things be implemented kind of poorly, and then finally, click in the final version of the game, which is out now. I will add one note to this. The Steam page says it does not support cloud saves, but the game does support cloud saves, which is a big thing if you are maybe like playing on multiple computers and something like that. Your colonies will be able to travel with you. I know sometimes I do that. And yeah, so that's pretty much it for Oxygen Not Included. Klei is a fascinating developer. They have been making games for a very long time. Their most famous game is probably Don't Starve, which kind of was a really big success for them. But they did not sit on their laurels. They continue to make different games. They really very rarely revisit the same like type of game multiple times. And like when you compare this to say something like Shank, which is one of their earlier games, completely different type of game. Don't Starve is a little similar, it's like a survival management-y, but still quite a bit different. And they just put out Griftlands, which is like a card battler game, which is, again, completely different. So they're a developer that you may not have heard about, but they make a lot of really great games, and they continue to push themselves. And, everything that they've put out up to this point has really been stellar, with Oxygen Not Included. So yeah, if you liked the video, please consider subscribing, leave us a like. If you have any suggestions of games for me to check out, please leave them in the comments. Let me know what you think of Oxygen Not Included. I do have a lot of games lined up for this series, but it's always nice to, know and plan ahead in case something's on sale, or I can keep my eye on something and start poking around at it. So leave those suggestions in the comments, and I will check them out. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to see more. Check out voxelvoice.com for all of our great content, and consider supporting us on Patreon to keep our content ad-free and independent.